Hey you sourdough lovers, today I'm going to show you how to make sourdough cinnamon rolls. We are going to start with 113 grams of active bubbly starter. I typically start this recipe at nighttime so that it has a chance to ferment overnight, and then I get up early and bake it the next morning for breakfast. This also makes a really yummy dessert too. Up next, we're adding half a cup of water. Then we're going to add 2 room temperature eggs. They should be room temperature because when you add the oil, you don't want the eggs to be too cold and the oil too hot to where it cooks the eggs when you add them together. Then you're going to add 168 grams of honey. Now I have substituted sugar for this recipe, but I really like the honey better because it just adds moisture to the cinnamon rolls. And I don't know about you, but I certainly don't like a dry cinnamon roll. The final wet ingredient is going to be half a cup of melted coconut oil. You can also use a half a cup of butter, but I really prefer using coconut oil for this recipe, and I promise you cannot taste the coconut. Once you've fully incorporated all the wet ingredients, you're going to add 540 grams of flour. Mix that all together, and obviously if you're using a stand mixer, it'll go a lot quicker, but I do not have one, so I just use my dough whisk and do it all by hand. Once the dough comes together, you can turn it out onto a floured surface and knead it until it passes the window pane test. And if you don't know what a window pane test is, that's where you can take a little piece of dough and stretch it thin enough to see the light through without tearing it. Now doing this by hand will take a really long time to get to the window pane test, but just trust the process, it'll get there eventually. Once your dough is ready for the bulk ferment, just stick it in a container, cover it, and let it set for 8 to 12 hours or overnight. For your filling, you're going to add half a cup of butter, 1 cup of brown sugar, and 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, and mix that together. I like to do this before I start working on the dough so that it has time to kind of blend together and soften a little bit more. Now as my oven preheats, I'll set this on top so that it'll just kind of melt from the warmth of my oven, and I'll get started on my dough. Now usually at this point the dough is really easy to work with. Mine was a little bit harder because after the bulk ferment I stuck it in the fridge overnight and the coconut oil got solidified. So if you do end up doing that, just make sure you give enough time for it to get warm again. But anyways, after the bulk ferment, you're going to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and half a teaspoon of salt. Then you need the dough to incorporate all of that. Once it's all incorporated, then you can start rolling out your dough. And I recommend doing that either on a clean counter or on a sill pad so that your cutting board is not moving around like mine was. For reference, my sill pat is 19 by 11 inches, so that's how wide and tall I make my cinnamon roll dough. And if you're thinking that does not look like enough filling to cover the whole dough, I promise it's enough. I always think that, and then I am always surprised that it does in fact cover the whole dough. Now for cinnamon rolls that I'm selling, I'll trim the edges just to make them look a little bit neater, but you certainly don't have to do this. You do want to leave about ½ inch to an inch at the top for when you roll up the rolls. I think the easiest way to do this is to just use a pizza cutter and cut them individually and then roll them up instead of doing a log and then floss. I don't like that method. This one works for me. Besides eating the cinnamon rolls, my favorite part of making them is rolling them up into these spirals. I just love the way they look, and I love the way the dough looks and how you can see the layers in it. Now, I like to grease whatever pan I'm using with a little bit of butter. I just take butter and wipe it with my hand across the pan. Now, there's not really any method to my madness here. I just line them up, leaving a tiny bit of space in between each because they will expand and fill the pan. Just look at how pretty they look. This is like all of my easy bake oven dreams realized. Now don't look at my dirty oven, but do look at the cinnamon rolls. I love watching them bake. Bake for 20 to 25 minutes or until it gets to this nice golden brown color. You'll want to ice them while they're still hot, and if you like this video and want to see more, hit that like button and subscribe.